Very interesting guest here. Joining us now is Tracy Thurman and also Roger Ver, who will not be talking, which is very interesting. Tracy and Roger are with us. This is all in the context of President Trump appointing friend of the show and friend of mine, really great American, David Sachs, as AI and crypto czar. For those that don't know Roger, you can check out his website at freerogernow.com. That's freerogernow.com. .org. freerogernow.org. Andrew, can you help introduce this before we throw it to Tracy and Roger?
Yeah, so Roger Ver, and they'll have a chance to tell their whole story, is one of the pioneers of the crypto space, one of the earliest investors in Bitcoin, then came out with Bitcoin Cash. Really a pioneer in a space that is going to define the future in a lot of ways. And so I think he's a national treasure. There's some controversy, obviously, surrounding his backstory, but a lot of people feel Roger's getting unfairly targeted. He's under investigation. They're trying to extradite him from Spain, I believe. He can clarify me if I'm wrong, or Tracy can. But essentially, the IRS has been on him. He's got a long history of saying, please pay all my taxes. Lawyers and accountants had to flee the country. And so it's a cautionary tale about when our government gets really aggressive, the IRS specifically. And so I'm excited to get into the details.
Let's see if they can win me over to advocate him for a pardon.
There we go.
All right. With all that build-up, we have Tracy Thurman and Roger Ver. Welcome. Tracy, walk us through all of this here, and thanks for taking the time.
Charlie and Andrew, it's such a pleasure to join you guys. Yes, I'm here with Roger, my friend, who is facing 109 years in prison for attempting to pay his taxes properly. As you can see, he cannot speak today. Anything he says can and will be used against him. And it's just simply too big a risk that the IRS will use anything that comes out of his mouth. The DOJ will use anything that comes out of his mouth against him. So I'm here today, and I'm going to tell you, I want to answer your questions in the way that I believe Roger would answer them if he could speak freely today.
Okay, and well then walk us through the history here. So sorry, I know that you guys are overseas. Who is Roger? What is he accused of? And is there political bias against him because of his, let's just say his passion for cryptocurrency?
Yes, there's absolutely a bias against Roger. This really goes back 24 years when Roger faced charges after he criticized the IRS and the ATF. He criticized the ATF for what they had done in Waco, Texas, and the ATF became obsessed with targeting him personally. And so they played the game of find me the man, I'll show you the crime. And he faced charges for selling fireworks on eBay, a thing which hundreds of people were doing. Cabela's catalog was selling them, and yet they chose to go after one man and one man only at that time for selling these, and that was Roger. So he actually served time in federal prison for that, at a time when nobody else selling these was being bothered at all. And then, so when he got out of prison, it was clear to him that he was a target of the U.S. government. The ATF, by the way, in a meeting with his attorneys and with the prosecutor, went as far as to say, when the prosecutor was saying, maybe we should just give him a fine, just tell him to go get a license to sell these things, said, but you didn't hear what he said about us. So this was clearly a case motivated by hatred for what he had said about them. So the minute that Roger could leave this country, he did. And in 2006, he moved to Japan. And as soon as he could, he gave up his U.S. citizenship and got citizenship in St. Kitts and Nevis because he needed somewhere else to belong and did not feel safe being an American any longer, which as an American is horrible to me, right? We should be proud of our country. We should keep our best and our brightest. We shouldn't be chasing them out. And so at that time, he had to, when you renounce your U.S. citizenship, there's something called the exit tax, which is this unconstitutional tax that you have to pay upon leaving if you're worth over $2 million. And Roger did his utmost to fully comply with that. There's a motion to dismiss that you can find on freerogernow.org, which lays it all out and shows without beyond a shadow of a doubt that he did everything he possibly could to comply. And yet the U.S. government has been going scorched earth against him since that time, attempting to take him down. And why are they doing that? Well, Roger's been one of the biggest critics of the U.S. government's, many of their programs. He has been funding the anti-war movement. He's been funding the anti-lockdown movement. He's been funding the medical freedom movement. He's been funding the anti-censorship movement. And he's been one of the biggest voices behind crypto, behind decentralized finance, behind permissionless peer-to-peer exchange of value. And that is a threat to the deep state. And that's why they're after Roger.
You know, this is a pattern. We saw a similar type of lawfare against Ross Ulbricht, who definitely did some things wrong, but does not believe, deserve 2 life sentences for that, for similar type of cryptocurrency related pioneering. Tracy, can you explain that a little bit more? That people that get into cryptography, that get into some of these alternative ways of disrupting the antiquated currency model and in new technology, seem to be recipients very forcefully from the federal government and the traditional banking system.
There is no greater threat to the traditional banking system than permissionless peer-to-peer decentralized exchange between individuals. There's simply no greater threat. And so if you are a person who supports that, if you're a person who pioneers that, if you are one of the people who enables that, you have a target on your back. There's absolutely no question. And few people did that more than Roger did. He was the earliest investor in cryptocurrency, in the cryptocurrency space, the earliest investor in Bitcoin, promoted it at a level that nobody else did. Early on, he'd go into a coffee shop and get coffee and then offer to pay in Bitcoin. Or he would just walk up to people on the street and say, hey, let me help you set up a Bitcoin wallet. Let me tell you how Bitcoin works. Let me help you with this. And of course, the people who accepted that from him have done very well for themselves. If you started taking, if you got $10 worth of Bitcoin from Roger when it was $2 to $3 a Bitcoin, you've done very well. And this is why they hate him, because if you are a central banker, nothing terrifies you more than people being outside your control, outside the control of the Fed, outside of the control of the coming CBDC system. And in a world where people are being debanked, where people are being deprogrammed, where people are being censored, the most powerful thing we have is permissionless finance. It's Bitcoin Cash, it's all of these cryptocurrencies. And so anybody who has promoted these and has promoted them to the world is a massive threat.
Andrew, you have a follow-up here.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at this, Tracy, and seeing the way that the world has shifted. I mean, obviously, remember back to President Trump speaking at the Libertarian Conference. One of the biggest applause lines that he got was when he said, we're going to set up a Bitcoin reserve at the federal government. He was going to create a hub here in the United States to become a hub of innovation, pioneering when it came to blockchain and crypto. And so it feels almost like, you were caught in a moment of time when this technology was so new and it was this emergent threat, and they thought that they could stomp out one of the innovators behind that. But it has grown so tremendously in the years that have followed. Are you guys watching this from abroad and seeing the changing climate? And you have to be feeling somewhat optimistic about the future is shaping up.
It's beautiful to see the way that crypto is being embraced by more and more people. And honestly, I think that's due in large part to the lawfare that so many people in the incoming administration have personally faced. Look at what Donald Trump has faced himself. Look at the evaluation of Mar-a-Lago case. Look at the New York cases. Look at the DC cases. All of them are just outrageous, clear targeting of a man that the deep state does not like. And anyone who has been through that, we know Melania was debanked after the election in 2020. She revealed that she and possibly even Barron were denied bank accounts at that time, and their bank accounts were closed. And so, people in this administration have a sensitivity to this and an awareness of this issue that has never been present in the executive branch before. And that's very exciting for those of us who are fighting this tyranny, because we feel like maybe for the very first time, we have people in a decision-making role who will understand and appreciate this problem. And maybe, we truly hope, will step up and not just pardon Ross on day one, but pardon Roger as well. Or possibly the incoming DOJ will recognize what an atrocious case this is and dismiss the charges entirely.